and the session is being recorded. So, delighted to be able to welcome Mehdi and Sodi for the session today, looking at immersive learning and transforming L&D at ScotRail and also other places as well. Mehdi, Sodi, over to you guys.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Andrew, for the introductions. Really happy to be here and discussing everything that's immersive learning technologies with yourselves. I am Mehdi. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at ARuVR. My background is in digital learning. Been in the industry now for about 15 years, and it's also my passion as well. Sodi?
Morning. I'm Sodi Kakouris. I'm from ScotRail. Been with ScotRail now for just over 2.5 years, but been in the learning space, particularly e-learning, for around about 30 years almost now. So a long time, and seen a lot of changes, no doubt, but interesting to hear what everyone thinks about what we're going to be speaking about today.
Great. Thank you very much, Sodi. We want this webinar to be as interactive as possible. We're agile in terms of what we can cover and what we can discuss and the answers and the points we can respond to. So please feel free, use the chat as much as you can, ask us as many questions as you want. We're going to start with a question, right? We're all familiar here in the world of learning and development. There is an awful lot of acronyms, right? From LMS, LXPs, LRSs, now it's MR, AR, VR. So it's a simple question just to try and understand the audience. What is the difference between augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality? So just in a few words in the chat, give us your answers, your take on what these technologies mean to you or what they stand for.
So I've opened a box up there for everybody. So a big chat. I can see some people already started typing in there. If you can stick your answers in that big chat box, it'll just be really useful for everybody, just so we can pick up your answers and put them all in one place. I can see some people are thinking about it. You're quite right. We do love jargon in learning and development. I think we use it deliberately sometimes just to keep people away. We're talking about TNA, and in AR, and we do, I think, just to stop people coming and talk to us sometimes, which I think is interesting. So Andrew has gone, AR and VR are the technologies, MR is the term to refer to these things collectively. That's interesting, Andrew. That's interesting. Let's have a look. They're all part of extended reality. Thank you, James. Yeah, you've given us XR as well now. Thank you. James is saying, James Coleman, this is, I have to be honest, I'm a bit unsure. Thank you, James. Overlaying the real world is AR, says Craig. VR is synthetic and immersive. And MR, Craig says, is a blended learning approach. And Ian agrees with you there, total immersion, you're only there. AR adds to what you're seeing, and a mixed reality, VR with see-through. Sheila Cleona was saying the same. AR is real world with digital, VR immersive, and MR a mix of both. AR added to, says Helen, scenarios. MR is a combination. It seems people seem to be picking up generally all three of these. What are your thoughts on these, Sodi, Mehdi? What are your thoughts?
Mehdi, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, great answers so far, right? This question is really useful to try and understand people's understanding of these acronyms, and the vast majority of answers, in fact, all the answers were really correct. We have two ends of the spectrum. So virtual reality is when you're fully immersed in a virtual world and wearing a VR headset. On the other end of the spectrum, augmented reality is when you actually augment digital objects on top of the reality. The best example I use for augmented reality is for the parents out there, and actually I'm not just going to limit it to parents, because we have some people that used to play Pokemon Go, right? And I remember my son used to, had the game, and we were going all over the place because, I don't know, Pikachu was showing up in a park in Guildford, which was about half an hour drive from where we lived, or something is in London because his friend or her friend in school managed to find a monster somewhere. So that's a good example of augmented reality. Now, when you combine the two, that's where you call mixed reality, MR, or as our friends at Apple decided to, add yet another acronym, they
Mhm.
called it spatial computing, right? And when you combine all of these three technologies, so virtual reality, mixed reality, and augmented reality, this is where you end up with XR. And forgive me, I can't remember the gentleman who mentioned, the term XR first, but spot on. Sodi, anything else you want to add?
No, not really. I think you covered it completely, as I would have probably said as well. Slightly different. I mean, virtual reality, I think, is the one that most people are familiar with, um, because it's the goggle effect. But we'll talk about that a bit more when I talk about what we're using at ScotRail, I think.
Great. Thank you, Sodi. Another question now. Why haven't you implemented extended reality in your organization? Right, there is a live poll that Andrew can talk you through.
So we've produced a poll for this one. I'm really interested to. You see, you can't help people in these sessions. They're Mike going to explain it. And we've already got people voting. Oh, wow, there's numbers going through. Look at the number. Wow. Okay, so you have a multi-response on this one. You can click as many answers as you would like, everybody. We've got 100 people in the room, and what are you doing? We've got clicky buttons, so do you know what? We're going to click them. I love it. Thank you, everybody. Why haven't you implemented it in the organisation? And we've got some key just options there. We've also put an option in there for other about people who have implemented it as well. Okay, Andrew has said because Apple are currently stopping WebXR. Okay, thank you, Andrew. That's interesting. Nice to hear that. But I love the response. Thank you, everybody. This is awesome. This is so interesting. Excuse me. So just looking at the results, you can see the results there, guys. Yeah, you can see those. What are your thoughts to the comments here? It looks like it's a cost, expertise, and
Mm.
technology integration coming out. What are your thoughts?
Well, my initial thought on that is exactly the same. My initial fears whether it's going to be too costly for us to implement, and plus, will my team and myself have the experience to actually use the technology effectively? Again, I think, what was the third one? Integration challenges. That's not so much. Didn't find that one too much. But I think the cost was the one that was the most fearful for us, I think, initially. But I can talk about that again later on, because that's not anything to be too worried about in the scheme of things. Cost didn't come into it very much when we got down to the nitty-gritty.
Excellent. Mehdi, what are your thoughts looking at the responses there?
Really expected. In fact, the three that I was hoping they would be picked are the three that were actually, they
Mm.
were picked. Uh, because again, I've been in the world of XR now for a number of years, and talking to clients, talking to industry experts, there is a misconception that, well, XR is really expensive. Where do I start? Is another question, specifically around my team doesn't have the skills or the expertise to even remotely kind of create anything meaningful. The other one is the number of kind of experiences that you can create against the investment that you put in, right? So, if you have an investment of, I don't know, say 200K or whatever that number is, what is the return on the investment? So I can see that the unclear ROI is coming in, I think at number 4, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, those three: costs, lack of expertise and skills, as well as technology integration challenges. All three of these will be covered during the webinar today. And if we haven't answered your question succinctly, please make sure you reach out to us separately, or add it in the chat if you have a specific points that you want us to cover in these 3 points.
And just to let everybody know, so just to show you how we built the session. So the guy sent the questions through to me. I went on to a large language model, an LLM. I asked 4 different large language models what would be the likely answers for this, and every single one of them. So I went through Bard, or sorry, Gemini as it is now, Poe, Claude, ChatGPT, and I asked them, what are the likely responses to be? And pretty much these are the top three that came out from every single one of those large language models as well. So I've not done those based on what the slides say. I've done those based purely on what the uh, what the likely ones are. So I just think it's interesting that, do you know what? AI seems to be working. It seems to be giving us the interesting thoughts. We've had a comment. I'm going to close the poll down in a minute, but I see that Besim's got a comment. I'm going to put your comment over into the main chat, Besim, and we'll possibly pick that up afterwards, because I'm going to change when I close the this layout down. We'll lose your comment otherwise. So I'm going to move you back to the presenting layout, and I've picked that comment up, Besim. Okay.
Great.
Okay, over to you guys. Ready to go.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And by the way, if you see me drink a a yellow substance in a small cup, no, it's not an alcoholic drink. It's just a Moroccan tea. So no, I haven't started early. So in terms of our view is that in the world that we live in today, using the technologies that we have today, traditional training doesn't is not enough for various reasons. We all know instructor-led and on-the-job training can be very time and resource intensive. This is something that was agreed and accepted many years ago, hence why we coined that expression of blended learning, where we added some digital content. Now, some digital content, it can be very passive. It's not engaging enough, and mostly, the learners are, just watching and not engaging and not doing much. And also when we are, training people in, classroom PowerPoints, etc., it focuses too much on the theory. People are not kind of like in a practical world, they're not practicing enough, and then there is no access to data. So as I mentioned, we've accepted something called blended learning, which was an amalgam, a summary of classroom as well as digital content. Now, we believe that immersive technology, immersive learning, deserves a seat at the top table so that we can have what we call blended learning 3.0 of, classroom, digital content, and immersive learning now. Because immersive learning has shown to have some really great experiential learning benefits and tangible benefits that were done that were presented in researches and studies done by some big organizations. What immersive learning provide that other learning mediums don't is actually a mixture of feelings and a mixture of experiences that you can have within a specific type of learning. So with immersive learning, you actually have, to watch, think, do, and feel all of this within the same experience. So in terms of the learner, you can, present to them with the theory, and you can do things like outcome-based learning, whereby depending on the answers that they provide, depending on, the polls and the assessment that they've given, it will take them down to an outcome. So when we're talking about high risk training scenarios, for example, working at height, or the use case that Sodi is going to be talking about, this is a perfect medium for it, because the learners are not just passive recipients of knowledge, they're active learners. And depending on their answers, it will take them down a path which leads to an outcome. And in terms of what the data tell us about the benefits of XR, now a mixture of research by PwC, Accenture, Meta, and ourselves have shown that immersive learning increases the learning retention by up to 90%, because once you're in a learning environment, you're fully immersed in that learning environment. There are no two screens that you can have. The data behind the scenes knows exactly how long I spent on every single aspect of a screen. So if I was looking at the light for more than 5 seconds, it will come up on that report, it will come up on that data. So then me as the instructional designer or the learning leader, I know I can see exactly where people are focusing on in real time. If there is a breakdown in a process and people are failing, for example, at a higher rate, I have access to that. So then I would know exactly that something is not working. Accenture's 2023 research showed that learners forget up to 70% of training content within the first 24 hours and nearly 90% in a month. This is not something that we can afford as a learning community when we invest an awful lot of time and money in creating really amazing pedagogical learning interventions, only for people to go back to the workplace and then they have forgotten everything. Another thing that immersive learning helps with is actually learning in the flow of work. So if you have a bit of information that you need to learn about without having to go through a big module, immersive learning gives you that opportunity. And AR, again, I've seen a comment from Basim. AR is an amazing medium for that because you can have QR code, you can have scan around me, where if I'm going to operate a machinery, I can just scan that machinery and then it will tell me exactly the things that I need to cover or the things that I need to look out for, and things that I need to consider. It also improves engagement rates by up to 95%. Again, I think this is self-explanatory. Immersive learning, you're fully immersed in these experiences, so there is no room for you not to be fully engaged either by the presenter or if you're going through it as a self-paced or a self-led modality. It increases user satisfaction by 30%. Again, we start talking about, oh, this is technology for the future, etc. Absolutely, I disagree with this statement because this is technology for today. The example I gave around AR and Pokemon Go, that game was designed 10 years ago, right? So it can't be a technology for the future when it's been around for 10 years. Yeah, granted, it mainly was for the consumer, but now more and more use cases for AR and VR and MR and extended reality as a whole is starting to actually be democratized because of things that we're gonna come on to in during the latter end of this webinar. It also reduces training time by 40% and it reduces accidents by 45% because this technology gives the learners almost an safe environment for them to practice as much as they want in a safe environment without having that fear of failure, without having that fear of embarrassment in front of colleagues when, doing certain tasks. And then you can try until you get it right. And you couple that with things like, the outcome-based learning approaches, whereby actually if I go down this path, this is the outcome. So I learn by actually by doing and by practicing. So when I go onto the workplace, for example, then I know I'm very familiar with the environment because when I was immersed in that training, it's actually my real life environment. So this is not just a fake environment where, let's say I work in a production line and, my production line is completely different from the one I went through during the training. PwC have done a tremendous study whereby they've taken a soft skills learning need and they train people in 3 different mediums. So they've done classroom, e-learning, and VR. And the findings here is really incredible because what they found was people trained in VR were 4 times faster to train than in the classroom. They were 3.75 times more emotionally connected to content. The one that actually impresses me the most is 275% more confident to apply the skills after training. Because we all know I can pass a module and I can wave a certificate straight away, I passed, right? And I go on to the workplace. Now, if I don't put into practice, if I don't feel confident to apply those skills in my environment, that certificate that I've obtained is as good as useless, right? Because I need to go back to the classroom or I need to go back to my learning medium to relearn that, so unlearn and relearn that specific skill. And then also we're talking about operational travel costs. With immersive learning, you don't need to take people to an environment for them to be trained. Let's say, in Sodi and ScotRail's cases, they don't need to go to a depot to view a train or be trained on that train. Actually, you can create that environment and then you can just invite people to be able to access it remotely, thus, slashing the operational costs and reducing the footprint. And then now we're going to be talking about ScotRail's use case. And over to you, Sodi.
I'm having a slight problem with my microphone. So I hope you can hear me.
No, all good, Mehdi. All good.
Great, thanks. So, some scene setting. We started looking at e-learning to be developed within ScotRail just over 3 years ago now, before I joined. And the team was pulled together and started working with me when I joined in 2022. Now, they had very little experience in designing or creating e-learning, but had good knowledge of the business itself and actually being able to write content. So we had to upskill that team very, very quickly. During that year, I looked at what the possibilities were of developing learning that was not just plain e-learning, but more interactive, more focused on as it were, technical training. And the train drivers were the ones that we actually focused on, because we had this issue that we needed to employ far more train drivers than we had, and the recruitment drivers doubled from 80 new train drivers a year to 160. So how are we going to train them? Well, we had simulators which were installed in our Glasgow head office training centre, but there was only limited timetables that they could attend and actually use those simulators. So my idea was, after doing some research, was that we should look at creating the environment using virtual reality. And that's where the relationship began with ARuVR. But what did I have to get over so that we could actually achieve this? Well, internally, it's very traditional, the training. It's classroom based, PowerPoint focused, it's quite dull. And the exciting bit was when people actually got their hands either on the simulator or when they passed their first part of training to actually get onto the real train with the driving instructor. So we wanted to mimic something that would actually allow them to feel that and feel that they were using or driving a train in a simulation. So that's where we came in with this. So we wanted to try things out before we actually bought, as I say on the slide here. So phase one is build something that sets the scene. So internally we use a 360 camera and just built a very, very simple video, 360 video of these inside of a train from the driver's cab right through to the conductor's cab at the other end, but just to show how a train presentation team, the people who actually clean the trains, would actually, which areas of the trains needed cleaning and what equipment they would need to clean that area with. Very simple. It took us about a month to pull this together. It was only 5-6 minutes long, only had about 6 or 7 hotspots in it, but it was very effective. That gave me the impetus to then move further and engage with a provider. To find the right partner, and I say partner because you need to be partnered with this, because the technology is new to a lot of the companies, particularly to us, brand spanking new. We didn't have any idea of how to really create and develop the content we needed to effectively. So my first point there is demo, demo and demo. What do I mean by that? Well, we asked ARuVR to demo on more than 4 or 5 occasions and quite intense, deep demos. The final demo was to the driving instructor team and the driving manager of driver team manager of that group. There's about 18 of them in attendance out of 20, and a group of 6 from procurement and from other areas in the business. At the end of the demo, I can say this quite safely, I've said this to Mehdi, the driving manager turned around and said, just get it, this will just save us so much time. So we then assessed it and we piloted, and the pilot lasted, it took about 3.5 months I think to build the first course with ARuVR. They supported us at every stage along the way. My team learned how to do the filming during that period of time to the extent that they could, after that, carry on without any support. So the training process happened during the piloting time. Excuse me. And the pilot that we created was very simple. It's an initial course, which is part of Module 1 of the training for the drivers and new drivers, and it's actually how you engage and start the train and move off. Key to everyone. How do you start the train, how do you move it off, and how you stop it. So that was all covered within this pilot. And then that was pre-launched to the driving instructors. And they couldn't believe how effective it was. Now, One of the things that we did during the pilot as well was we tested whether or not headsets would be suitable or not. Out of the 10 instructors who we had working with us throughout the pilot, 7 of them turned around and said, don't want the headsets. It detracts from it. And some of them felt nauseous, some of them got a slight dizziness from it as well. They thought it would detract from the training. So we developed it slightly further, so it worked directly on tablets and laptops. And that was really effective and really worked very, very well. And it allows our guys now to use the tool so that they can actually provide training prior to the timetabling of the driver instructor session. Sorry, I need to have a glass of water. Sorry about this. Excuse me, sorry. So it allowed them to use the simulators far better because they're getting pre-training on how to actually use a simulator. So instead of spending the first 3 hours on a simulator trying to work out how to use it, that was done using, and it is being done using the VR technology now. So that's saving us time and pre-engaging with the trainees. Secondly, it allows them to, once they've been in the simulator, it allows them to come out and go through that same simulation, but on the tablet using the VR technology. So we're now taking elements of what the AR system within the simulator has and blending that in with the VR technology. So we're now getting the two working together, and that's been very successful. And that's only being piloted internally at the moment with a few of the trainees, but that's going to be rolled out once it's gone through all our safety validation, which will probably take about 6 or 7 months. So that's where we've incorporated it from the sims. And we're looking at other areas now where we're going to be deploying this. One of the areas that's coming out to us is that onboarding would be a really useful side of the business where we can use this technology. And that's a challenge to us because the onboarding would then be looking at each of the areas where people are reporting through. So our depots, our stations, and we'd have to look at which areas we'd record first so we can provide the training for the onboarding. We're going to be doing it for our head office so that everyone comes to the head office under our HQ is familiar with the environment that they'll be working in before they actually start working in it. And I think that's an important thing. We've also had our engineering department rear their head and saying that they can now see that VR and AR, XR, all of it, how that would work for them to provide training to their engineers so we can simulate scenarios where they're looking at repairing equipment and train themselves. And then finally, safety training. It lends itself very, very well to safety training. So our fire safety training, manual handling, and so on. So those are the areas we're going to be looking at moving into later. And along the way, we'll be working very closely with ARuVR on developing these modules. So back to you, I think, now, Mehdi.
I just want to jump in very quickly, everybody. Say, loving the questions. Please keep them coming. You guys have got some answering to do. The questions are absolutely outstanding, but please do keep putting them through. And apologies, everybody, as well. I've got some terrible background noise where I am. My neighbours decided, obviously, in the middle of doing these sessions, to start drilling. So I will be off mic as much as I can, but I will come back on, hopefully, between him drilling. Thanks. Cheers, Mehdi.
So some really great points raised there by Sodi in terms of their journey to to implement immersive learning and immersive technologies at ScotRail. And as Sodi mentioned during his slides, the challenges are around content creation and then content deployment and content consumption, which is linked to some of the questions that I can see in the chat. I'm going to start answering some of them. So, how do you get started with XR or with immersive technologies today? Now, you have two options. So the first one is, are you going to create it in-house or are you going to outsource it? If you're going to create it in-house, then you need to have coders and developers who will build, content for you in, platforms like Unity or Unreal games engines. If you then decide to outsource it, which I would probably say about 80 to 90% of what organizations do, you have three types of offerings in front of you. And you'll notice that this is incredibly similar to the e-learning world. So first things first is you're going to have off the shelf. And I can see that Kimberly's asked one question around, are there any off the shelf construction courses? Again, it really depends, Kimberly, what you're asking for in terms of the content. So if you're talking about working at height, operating something, safely, yes, absolutely. There are off-the-shelf construction courses, and I can put you in touch with them. And off the shelf seems to focus on just two areas. One, soft skills. So again, there is another point there around can it cover anything other than physical or maybe safety courses? Absolutely. One of the really great use cases for immersive learning or extended reality, things like interpersonal skills, soft skills, dealing with empathy, interviewing skills, dealing with difficult conversations, etc. So that's one of the vendor type. The other one is what you call authoring tools. Now, authoring tools are things like initially authoring tools that are like rapid authoring tools with zero coding, which means you will just go there, the vendor will train you and empower you on how to create content. You will be empowered using your already great learning design skills and the training that you receive. Then you have an amazing skill set of creating your own content, which is beneficial because then it will be incredibly custom. And then the third one are bespoke content developers. So you know exactly what you need developing. It doesn't exist in an off the shelf. You don't want to create it yourself. And then what you do is you take that brief, you give it to them, and then they will create you something that's incredible. Now, I'm not here to tell you which one is right for your organization or which one is not, but these are the options that are available to you today, should you wish to start in this journey. Now, where ARuVR sit? Well, we sit in predominantly 80% of our clients, they use us for the authoring tool. We created a rapid authoring tool, zero coding, drag and drop, Gen AI powered, and you can create as many of these modules as you want with the help of our team, and we train and empower you on how to do it. But 20% of our clients, specifically in the Middle East, they have a specific need, they come to us, and we can operate and we can create that bespoke content for them. Now, there was another question around how do we start, and then I will come into it. So this is what our company has solved in the market, is really around that content creation and content consumption. I covered the content creation part, which is it's almost like using an off-the-shelf. It's using like PowerPoint. Now, the content consumption is something that Sodi has already started talking about it. In order for you to be able to scale this technology rapidly or effectively through the organization, I can safely say if the consumption using the headsets only was the only medium, this will not scale. You will need a solution that actually you are able to scale using different modalities. And what we've created is once you curate your content, you are able to access it using the VR or MR headsets out there. You can use it just using the WebXR or just the web browser. We have apps on iOS as well as Android, but more importantly, you can export all of this stuff using in a SCORM 1.2 or 2004 or XAPI, excuse me, and host it on your learning management system. So this is the bit. Sorry, I forgot to press next in the slides. So this is a great way to scale these the consumption of these. And in terms of how do you push this content to the learners, there are two ways you can do it. The first one is what we call self-led. It's like e-learning. You make the content available, whether they're via headset, whether the web app, or just using it through the LMS. People will access it in their real time, and then you, as the instructional designer or the learning lead, you will have access to real time to data once they finish that specific module. Or you can go through what we call the live instructor lab. This is a really powerful learning medium because you have access to real-time data. So I can be sat here in beautiful sunny Morocco. I can run a session where people can join remotely. and then I can guide them and interact with them in a live environment. And the beauty of this, access to real-time data, make sure that I can ensure people's skills and knowledge acquisition is paramount. So if there are people are struggling, or if we need to cover something a little bit more or a little bit less, that real-time data access is vital for me. And then, as I said, that multimodal consumption is important, and you need to be able to have a deployment that makes our friends in IT happy. So consider things like where the data is residing. So is it public cloud? Do you have to go for a private cloud? If it's public cloud, for example, we just need to make sure that the data is compliant with your organization's data compliance. So if, for example, you're based in the UK, you need to ensure the cloud used is based in the UK. Same for Europe, same for all over the world. And also, you need to partner with organizations that have ISO certifications to make sure that all these standards are respected. Now, how do you then deploy these immersive technologies? And I really liked one of the points made by Nick. Look, technology is just a medium, right? If you just focus too much on the technology, you will fail. You need a mixture of good technology, but also skill sets, learning design, and passion for the people that will be creating it. And you need to be able to iterate and actually listen to people's feedback. So first things first, like we do with any learning need within our organization, you need to define the business objectives and assess the training needs. That's a given. Then you need to evaluate if XR is the right solution for your learning needs. The worst mistake to make is to deploy XR for the sake of it, right? Now, if this is a learner marketing piece and you just want to tick that box and go, hey, we have XR in our organization, that's your prerogative. If you really want to have impactful learning experiences, then you really need to think about if XR is the right medium for it. And then you need to assess your internal capabilities. This is the slide that I mentioned previously, your tech, your resources, against outsourcing it to a partner vendor. Once you have these questions, then you would know exactly where to go. My feedback and my advice is involve IT as early as possible. The last thing that you want is you go through all of this, you involve IT in the 11th hour, and then they tell you certain websites are blocked. Then you can't use certain functionalities, or you can't deploy the VR headsets. Include them, involve them as early as possible. Another incredibly important piece that actually Sodi reminded me this week of is the importance of upskilling your team. We all know us in learning, we're great at creating amazing learning and caring about our audiences, but also we're not great about us upskilling ourselves or training ourselves as well in terms of learning how to learn, learning how to unlearn and relearn a few things. So please make sure that you upskill your team, and then after that you can create relevant training material and agree how you will measure success. The powers to be, they want a return on your investment, so you need to very early on decide what does success look like. Start with a pilot, never with a full deployment, and gather feedback from the learners and from your pilot group. So select a wide range of audiences from different departments, different walks of life, diverse as well, and listen to their feedback, gather their feedback, iterate if need be, and then learner marketing is imperative. I really like things when you can tease your audience of, look, we have extended reality coming in, or immersive learning. So just give them a nugget of information, and then you refine that based on the feedback, based on all the data that you have, and then you can do a full rollout. We have
Can I
some use
just
cases.
can I
Sorry.
just add something there as well, Mehdi? One of the things we haven't mentioned in there is getting a relationship to work with subject matter experts within your business for the area that you're developing the content for. And it really is vital when you're looking at this technology to do that, because you won't get it right without their input.
That's some really important point as well, Sodi, yeah. So I think a couple of the comments there were around what other use cases are relevant there. So with Coca-Cola, again, this an example was just around training people on processes in a production line where they've had a number of accidents. across three different plants. So we worked with them to create a really impactful onboarding program and training program, whereby we wanted to standardize the processes across all of the audience. And we've seen some amazing results on that, like a 15% increase in learning retention, because we've done assessment throughout a 6 months period. We've also seen an 80% increase in employee training engagement. Actually, we found the employees are coming to the training center to go through the training through word of mouth, as opposed to being invited to go through that experience. On a different industry, UCLH Hospital, we transformed their modern surgical curriculum. As part of their curriculum, they've created a blended approach whereby they had, the classroom in sessions in auditoriums. They had some digital content, but actually they were able to teleport people in a live environment to the operating theaters, because we all know it's very difficult to get people to go into the operating theater in a live surgery, and we helped with that front as well. And then with the AA, we help their engineers and roadside breakdown agents before they go onto any roadside. Just using the iPad, they were able to click on what the issue is with that car, and then it will play them a kind of like a really immersive video, tell them exactly what car it is, where the problem is, and then how to fix that as well. Now, coming on to what other use cases XR is good for. Things like recruitment, attracting talent, great to create a day in the life of a certain engineer, or a day in the life of maybe like a manufacturing agent, and actually people will be able to be fully immersed in that. Onboarding, induction, so health and safety, things like high risk training scenarios. We all know this is great for it, but also think about interpersonal skills and soft skills. So empathy, customer service, how to deal with difficult conversations, interviewing skills as well. These are things to look out for. As an organization, we work with some of the top blue chip organizations in the world, and have done so for a number of years. We won a number of awards with these organizations because we developed a model that actually, we can prove it works in terms of delivering the ROI, delivering that impactful learning. And actually, as Sodi mentioned, it's taken 3 months for us to provide that pilot, that proof of concept. And on the back of that, we have multi-year agreements with our clients to actually really scale this solution. So I'm conscious of time. So Andrew, if you can just play the next 3 videos, just to show you 3 different examples of 360 VR, kind of a 3D environment VR as well as AR.
Okay, it's just loading up now, everybody. Just bear with us a second. Here we go. That's the first one.
Perfect. So this is a good example for one of our maritime clients. This is a video of the bridge. As we know, ships cannot be docked, as and when you want them to provide training. So just using a 360 camera, very, very simple way of doing it. They were able to create a virtual tour, very interactive, of the bridge that people need to complete before they set foot in there. To give you an idea, from idea to storyboarding to filming to putting this experience together was less than 6 hours for the lead learning designer to put it together. So really, really quick way to to create some impactful learning as well. And then we can move on to the next one, Andrew.
Okay.
So this one here, again, it's a 3D environment, which the platform allows you to create content in. So you're moving around. So you can see there is a level of gamification. And here you need to select the right PPE and put it in the green zone in order for you to be able to operate in a different part of the ship. So, one is kind of like a VR 360. This is a VR 3D environment with 3D models where you can just walk around, pick things up. And then the next video that you're going to see is one where it's actually doing augmented reality. So you are able to put a video. You can see a video of our CEO there, Frank, in a chroma key environment. You are able to upload it onto one of my colleagues' office, and then add kind of 3D models and digital assets for them to be able to kind of interact with. So these are just kind of 3 examples of how you can, how the platform allows you to create, 360 3D environment using 3D models as well as augmented reality. And as I mentioned, the beauty of the rapid authoring tool, the zero coding part of it, is it's actually a matter of days to create content as opposed to a matter of weeks or matter of months to do that. Now, I want to emphasize the technology is just an enabler, right? You need to bring to life the great learning design skills that you have. We provide all the training and the empowerment for the learning design team to be able to train and empower them. And whilst I'm at it, I'm going to answer one of the questions in terms of cost. Um, so, the cost for a yearly license is 27K. And 27K, what you will get with that is a 360 camera. You will get the onboarding program, which is that training in empowerment. You will also receive support creating your first module in terms of support with storyboarding, with filming, with putting the experience together. And you have an unlimited way to create as many modules as you want and train as many people as you want. So again, we covered one of the kind of blockers at the start in terms of cost, right? We're not talking about hundreds of thousands here. We're talking about 30K direct cost without taking into consideration, for example, the indirect cost of people joining, people creating content internally. Yes, I think that's it from me. There is just a there's one slide around how to get in touch, but I believe it's time to answer some more questions.
I think it's interesting your image here. The next generation of XR has started. It was already picked up earlier on that some of the big providers have stopped looking at some of this stuff. But there we go. We've got Mehdi's contact details here. I have got them in a second. I am going to put us onto another layout. It's what we call the wrap-up layout. And here we go. I'll just put myself back on camera as well. Apologies, my cat has decided that she wanted to get up on the screen with me here, and she was all set to say hello to everybody. But there we go. Awesome stuff, guys. Really, really interested in the questions that have come through. Just Andrew Hanley, apologies, you got a grey screen. It did play through okay. If you do want to come back and look in the recording, you'll be able to see the video there. Going through some of the questions, there's a couple of questions that I'd like to sort of bunch together if I can do. So we've had a few questions to do with people feeling unwell was one that came out earlier on, and also just generally, can anybody use them? So a question around accessibility for people with disabilities and so on. What are the questions? What kind of things can we talk around accessibility? Help me out with the accessibility stuff, guys.
Yeah, with accessibility, I'll link it to that multimodal approach that I mentioned. So you don't have to just use kind of the mixed reality headsets. It can be used just using the web VR, kind of like the web, the iOS, Android app that are available out there. Or also you can just export it kind of and view it on your LMS. But also you can add things like, for example, audio descriptions, kind of like replace videos by, certain kind of like other mediums. So in that way, it is accessible to more people. Now, is it fully accessible modality? Unfortunately, there is work for us in the XR industry to do in order to make this available to everyone with different disabilities.
Sorry, it's because Thames Water it is. It's not my neighbour. I apologise to my neighbour. Sorry, it isn't him drilling. It's Thames Water decided to drill up outside my house. Brilliant. We had no notice of it. Literally, we've had no notice. They've decided to start drilling up the pavement, but there we go. A few questions have come through, people talking about how do we use technologies like this for more than like technical skills, so things like soft skills and other critical core skills. What are the use cases around that? We've got a lot of people who work in the knowledge work environment. We've got a lot of people who work in potentially more less service industries, but more to do with knowledge and people skills. Can you use this technology for those?
Absolutely. I think I touched upon interpersonal skills, soft skills, because what the platform allows you to do and what the kind of XR allows you to do now with the integration with AI is to actually have real life kind of conversations generated by or powered by, Gen AI and the AI in general. So, and they are perfect for it because, some of these solutions can actually pick on your tone, it can pick on your presenting skills, it can pick up on your pause periods, etc., and provide you real life feedback. And when we're talking, for example, about interviewing skills, there are literally different scenarios, and based on your answers in real life and in real time, it provides you with feedback. So I'm a great believer and a great fan that extended reality as a whole is great not just for high risk training, practical safety scenarios, but also for things also like interpersonal skills, soft skills, and then actually what we found is some of our clients use it for sales and marketing purposes. So sometimes instead of you pitching your product and your solution in a just kind of a 2D environment, i.e. PowerPoint slides and here is a brochure, they brought it to life and they created kind of a tour of their facilities or products and services done in an immersive way and shared it with their client or as part of a bid. And that proved to be incredibly successful.
Mm, fantastic.
ScotRail, and we're working with the driver trainers again, and the whole team driver recruitment, and we're looking at ways that we can use this technology to actually attract people to the jobs, because at the moment it's just plain paper, presentation that they get. So we're looking at the technology to actually highlight the pros of becoming a train driver and attracting more people to it.
Awesome. That's a really interesting one, Sodi. That idea and that the I have a long conversation with people about the expectations we set people when they join an organisation, and we tell them everything beforehand about how great it's going to be, and then they end up on their first day being onboarded, sitting in a room with 10 other people, kind of thing. It's like they're back at school. If you can do something which this is what we do and this is how we do it, and you can follow that through, fundamentally shifts and changes that employee value proposition and the onboarding and the way that we bring people into an organisation. We've probably got time just for one more question. Let me just have a look through here. Let me have a look here. So this is the one from James that stood out. VR tools can be used on 2D devices, tablets, for example. The augmented reality kind of thing. Have you got any experience of examples of using any technologies like that at all, guys?
So using
Just
immersive
like your
learning in 2D
phone or
devices, right?
tablet and so on, just to put stuff through. Have you got experience of doing anything like that?
Well,
Screen size,
Yeah, yeah.
is going to be how effective it's going to be. But our engineering team are working, and we're rolling out new phones for them, which are slightly bigger screens, so it works effectively on that. And we're working with our IT department, and as Mehdi alluded to earlier on, IT department is really important to keep abreast of what you're doing. They have to keep abreast of what we're doing as well, so that we can actually advise them on the technology that we need to make sure that these courses run.
Yeah.
So we've actually influenced the new technology that's now being rolled out in equipment to the whole organisation.
Fabulous. I know it was sort of answering the presentation, James. What I was looking for was as I was really keen to get Sodi to talk about how the learning has actually become part of the technology has become part of the other rollout stuff. That was why I was looking for Sodi for that answer. So that was one of the reasons why I asked the question. We've got 2 minutes
yeah.
left. I'm going to stop us there, Mehdi. Sorry to cut across you. Thank you, everybody. I have to say, awesome conversation, people. I love these sessions because of the interaction we get, and we have had so many questions and comments and so on that have come through. A massive thank you to everybody. But do you know what? The people we have to thank are Mehdi and Sodi. Really, really insightful stuff. Great comments, everybody. Please do thank them. Stick in the chat your thanks, or give them little thumbs ups and so on, to say how much you really appreciated this session. I thought that was absolutely outstanding. It will be recorded. Oh, sorry, it will be recorded. It has been recorded. You will be able to find it, and it will be available for you later on. And so he's just put his email in the chat very, very quickly there. It will be available. On the left-hand side, we have got some follow-up details. So if you want to book a follow-up demo with ARuVR, you've got to book a demo. You've got Mehdi's email address and his LinkedIn. You've also got my LinkedIn profile should you want to interact with me. Most people realised, you know what, he's talking rubbish, so they don't. We've got further LT webinars. I don't know how it says LSG, but further LT webinars you'll find on the hub. And you've also got links there as to the effectiveness of soft skills and VR, the PwC, the Accenture study, and also the case studies that have been done as well, that Mehdi sent through to us. We are back at 12 noon. I'm going to close the doors, everybody, and I'm going to lock you out very, very shortly. But nothing else to say other than a massive thank you to Mehdi and Sodi. I combined your names. Mehdi, why not? Why not? If we can have... why not? Let's combine the names. You can have Jennifer and J-Lo and whoever else. Why don't we combine them? Awesome. Thank you, guys. I'm now going to put everybody back into the waiting room. Thank you, everybody. And we'll catch up with you again soon.
Thank you all.
There we go. They are on hold. Awesome. Has Mehdi gone? Mehdi's gone. Oh, dear. I was going to have a quick chat. There we go. How was that, Sodi? You're on mute again. Yeah, did go well. Really well. Yeah. It does go very quickly. Yeah. No, I know. Well done. Yeah, you should see what I'm doing. I'm doing so much stuff. It's unbelievable.
So hats off to you. Thank you very much.
No, don't worry about it. Like I say, my job is just to make you guys look good. That's all my job is. It's just to make you guys look good. So
that's a very difficult job.
To be honest, it's not that difficult. All you need to do is just keep your eyes on things and make sure that everybody's everybody's there.
No, but it's quite interesting. The questions are ones I expected.
Yeah, and really good engagement as well. I mean, we were running at 90 plus pretty much for the whole session. So we had 100 people in there at the most. So, good numbers, really good numbers. So, yeah, more than...
you thought we'd get about 30 yesterday.
I was thinking 30 or 40. So to get 100, first one back, I was thinking people wouldn't turn up. Do you know what? Quite the opposite. First one back, everybody wants to turn up. So there you go.
Yeah, and then you got the storyline one later.
Yeah, that's right. So, cool. Right, I'm going to have something to eat very quickly because I've got to get in the room and set up the next one. No worries. You're very welcome. And, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, feel free. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn and stuff. But, interesting stuff. And, I'm interested to see how that onboarding thing works. Not the onboarding, the sort of like the AR, VR kind of people joining. Be interesting to see
that one.
What effect that has.
Well, keep an eye. I'll let you know, but keep an eye on the ScotRail website. We are launching animations of it first, and then this will come in later. It's going to be run for we're going to have it as a resource for the next 3 to 5 years. What
I think is really interesting is because it goes back to my point, this idea of the value proposition. What we do is we promise this, and then we go through the recruitment process, and people have to fill out crap application forms, and then they get interviews, which are done by managers who don't really care, and then they join the organisation, and we're sort of like, we're trying to, make them feel good. Go, everything's ready to go, and they're down here, and it's like, why is this? Why we got a problem? We need to. If this is the expectation, we need to maintain that expectation all the way through. So, and it's that whole onboarding has to start from before the person even looks at the organisation.
Absolutely.
All of it. It's got to be there beforehand.
Absolutely.
It's the whole brand, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to design now.
Yeah, brilliant.
So, but that'll be for everyone. It won't just be. Anyway, I'll leave it to it.
Awesome
Thank you once again.
You're very welcome. Take care. I'll see you soon. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.